Hey creative friends, welcome to my channel, and in this video we are going to be canning barbecued pulled pork. Like, what doesn't sound any better than that? Oh my gosh, I cannot wait to get this done. And then these nice big pieces of pork are going to be infused with that barbecue sauce, and when you take the jar off your pantry shelf, all you have to do is heat it up, shred up that pork, and you've got some awesome pulled pork sandwiches. But let me go over some of the ingredients for you that you're going to need to make this recipe. First of all, you're going to need 1.5 cups of chopped onion, and that's like a 1 large onion, and you just want that chopped into nice chunks. I like it a little bit chunky. 1.5 cups of ketchup, and this is actually my homemade ketchup, so that's going to make this taste even better. You know it is. And I need 1/2 cup of firmly packed brown sugar that I have right here, and 1/4 cup of apple cider vinegar, and I've got that in this little measuring jar. And then 2 tablespoons of, Worcestershire sauce, or I've had someone tell me it's Worcester sauce. So I'm going to show you this is what you need, and you need 2 tablespoons of it right there. And then 2 tablespoons of brown mustard, which I have here. I love the brown mustard. It's got that just a better flavor than just regular mustard, so I like when they include that in barbecue sauces. And 2 tablespoons of honey, 3 garlic cloves minced, I have that right there, and 1 4 to 5 pound like a roast pork shoulder, Boston butt, cut into large chunks. And I have that here, and this is about a 4-pound amount. So I'm going to get the other ingredient that I need, because I told you guys he's going to be doing the pork recipes. I need to get Brian. Hey, dear. Where is he? Oh my gosh, I think he might have hid. Let me go find him. Oh, here he is.
I was washing my hands.
He was washing his hands. Good for you. Okay, so you know what? I'm going to get you a spatula to stir this with. In this dish, in this saucepan, or this, stop it. In this kettle here, you're going to mix all the ingredients together except for the pork. You're going to mix them until they're nicely blended, and then you're going to put the pork in and kind of stir it around and kind of coat it. Then we're going to put it on the stove, bring it to a boil, and then let it simmer for 5 minutes. Okay, so put all the things together. This is super easy, actually. Yep, stir together all the ingredients except the pork in a 6-quart stainless steel or enamel Dutch oven until it's blended. Add the pork, turning to coat, bring to a boil, reduce heat, and simmer for 5 minutes. So simple. And then while you're doing that, I'll get all the jars set out and get everything ready for you to put them in the jars. You might use that little tiny, you gonna get that out of there, the honey? I didn't do my trick. You know there's a trick. If you spray that with like spray oil, the honey will just slide out. Perfect. That's good. Fabulous. What's that? Oh, the mustard. Oh, my sauce. Don't they have a Worcester, Massachusetts?
Yeah.
And a Worcester, Mass, right?
Yeah.
And they're different, aren't they?
Yes.
So see, that's why that's why the name thing. What do you call it? I don't know. All right, perfect. Now mix that until it's nicely blended, and then you're going to just stir in the pork. I'm going to bring you guys. Can you bring that over closer here, dear? Excellent. I want everybody to see. Ooh, until it's nice blended. Get all that. Looks good.
See, I do this too rough, apparently.
Because you don't need to like fling it to mix things. When you fling it, stuff goes all over the place.
I love stuff everywhere.
Well, you're not the one that gets to clean it up usually.
I know, good.
Did you know we're going to use Forjars lids on these?
Good deal.
I know it. I love the Forjars lids. You know, I just have...
Didn't we use Forjars on the last ones?
We use Forjars on everything. I've never had a Forjar, not to say that they won't fail. I mean, I'm not saying you can't guarantee anything, but I frankly have never had a fail. I can't remember if I've had a fail. I know a couple people, have said they had a fail, but it was user error. So if we have a fail...
It's my fault. Like most things.
No. Yeah, just pour that in there. And it says,
How do you pour meat?
well, you're adding it. You don't pour, you add it. And then turn to coat. Then we're going to put it on the stove and bring it to a boil and let it simmer 5 minutes, okay? So I'll let you guys see how we get that all mixed in there. Then it's just putting it in the jars. Isn't that cool?
Yep.
Sorry. I love that you do this with me now. Look at this. I've had my YouTube channel for 10 years. And now you've been on it.
That's what happens when you retire.
I know. You got nothing else to do, babe.
To retire.
I know. I know. That looks good. Okay. Get that last little bit on there and we'll take it over to the stove and we'll get it to a boil. And now what's going to happen, we're going to bring this to a boil and then we're going to let it simmer 5 minutes. And when that's done, we'll come back to you because this will be ready to put in the jars and I'll have everything set up to jar it up. The broth mixture has gone for 5 minutes, and so let's scoot this over if you put this here. We're going to add those chunks in there and then the broth or the barbecue sauce. And then these big chunks, it's nicer than small chunks because it's easier when you open the jar to like shred it up. And also it gives you a better ratio of the meat to the broth. So you can pack that down a little bit more. There you go. Perfect. Oh no, this goes all the way. Because the other one was kind of like a soup. This one you're just going to get it all the way up to about an inch head space. Like one more nice piece. Oh yeah, maybe another little piece. There you go. And now you're going to put the broth in. You want that on there to put the broth in.
Can I use this?
Yes, that's what it's for. And you just fill that up to about an inch headspace, which is the same as what the other pork recipe was. Now you'll see that I see a big air bubble, so when you debubble, that's going to go down a lot. Okay, perfect. Get your little debubbler tool. Looks just right.
Naturally.
That one piece, you kind of shove that in there. Fabulous. Oh my gosh, I can hardly stand how good that looks. That looks really good. Now you're going to want to wipe the rim. Let me get you another paper towel because you use that one. You want to wipe the rim with vinegar. And then put one of those awesome Forjars lids on there. You wipe the actual top rim. So if you don't do that, it gets grease on it from the pork or it gets broth or barbecue sauce and then the lid won't stick. Here's the little lids. Ooh, you're like a pro. All right, there's your ring. All right, so get that on their fingertip tight. Perfect. And hold it up close to the camera so they can see how beautiful that looks. That looks so amazing. Bring it over this way. Excellent. There you go. All right, we're going to go ahead and finish the rest of them, and we'll bring you back when the canner is full. All right, Brian's got his 6 jars of barbecue pulled pork. So excited about this. Now I'm going to put the lid on the canner, and then because I haven't done a pressure canning video in a long time, I'm going to tell you guys a couple things about it once I get the top on. Actually, I should show you a couple things. First of all, when you have your pressure canner lid, always check your little valve right here. This is a release valve in case it's overpressure. It'll like blow if it gets too much pressure. And that will pop off and let the steam out, or the pressure out, which is awesome. And then this little doodad is like a lock. So let me show you. Let me see if I can get you where you can see it. Oh, I don't think so. Let me see. There we go. Okay. Let me set you up here. See if you can see that. Okay, perfect. So this little lock, there's usually a little ledge right there. And when you put your lid on, that goes around there. And that little bit, I don't know if you can see it. Let me turn it upside down so you can see. This little thing pops up and that grabs on the, that locks, pulls tight, and it will lock. So that's when this thing pops up. You can see that it has popped up because that little thing is locked onto there. So that's how your lid locks on your canner. And then we're going to close the lid. I have a dual gauge canner. So what I have is I have a dial gauge and I have a weighted gauge. This is a Presto 23 quart canner, and you can have them converted. You can buy this little pitcock with the little weights, and that's a 5 pound, and then they've got 2 rings that would be a 10 pound, and then the third ring will make it a 15 pound. I like that because then I don't have to worry about getting this checked every year, which if you're a dial gauge person, you need to make sure you get your gauge checked every year. So that way I don't have to worry about this, and I don't have to sit around and stare at it and kind of freak out that if it's not exactly right. Because when this is on here and it's rocking, I know that it's working. Because the reason it's working is because enough steam comes out of there and it will push it up and it'll go psht, and then psht, and you'll hear it. You'll hear that steam release. And so as long as it's doing that, and it's kind of like just sitting here rocking away, you know that it's 10 pounds because it takes 10 pounds of pressure to lift this off and go psht. So that's how it works. So if you have a weighted gauge, it's so simple, so much easier than this for me. But you know, there's gauge watchers. So I used to be a gauge watcher. So there's that. Now what I have to do is turn this on medium-high heat until steam is coming out of the vent. And then when steam is coming out of there, you want to let it go 10 minutes because it takes 10 minutes to evacuate all the cool air from around the jars and under the jars. That's why you have everything on a rack. It gets all the cool air out of there so that it can get hot enough and build the pressure in there so that you can properly can something. And I will tell you a little secret. See where this is? See what's above that? A microwave. And I will tell you, I learned from experience, always make sure that your little steam vent is turned away from your microwave. Because when this guy hits the door, it'll melt your door. And I can tell you why I got this new microwave. Well, it's not new, but I had to get a new microwave at one point many years ago because I literally melted the door. And it costs more to get a door replacement than just to buy a new microwave. So be real careful with that. So anyway, I now have the pressure canner ready to start venting, and once it vents, we'll go for 10 minutes. I'll put the weight on. We'll go an hour, and once you put the weight on, you then wait for either your gauge to get to the proper pressure or for your rocker, your weighted gauge to start rocking. And once it's at pressure, then we're going to count an hour and 15 minutes for these to be done. So when that's all done, we'll come back to you. I do want to tell you, it's an hour and 15 minutes for pints, and my altitude would be at 10 pounds of pressure or 11 on a dial gauge. If it's quarts that you're doing, it's an hour and 30 minutes. But we're just doing pints, so it'll be an hour and 15 minutes. All right, I suspect you can see, let me see if I can make sure that you can see the steam coming out there. So now I'm going to set a timer for 10 minutes and let that vent for 10 minutes solid, and I'll show you what it's like when I get back. So you can see how it kind of sputters a little bit. That's the cold air coming out of the canner. So once it gets a solid column of steam, it takes about 10 minutes, then all of the cool air has evacuated the canner. Okay, here's the thing I get asked about a lot is that little lock. It says top on it, on the Prestos, but you can see there's quite a bit of steam coming out. And there's like water sputtering, and that's fine. That's just the steam and the pressure coming out of the canner. But you can see it is about, there's a little water pooling there, that's fine too. But all of a sudden, there it is. You see how that locked? That now has locked the top of my canner to the base of the canner. And now look at the steam is really being forced out of here. So it'll take about 10 minutes, and then I'll show you that column of steam. All right, the 10 minutes has gone. Now I'm going to put the weight on. There we go. Now I'm going to wait for my weight to start rocking, or if you're a gauge person, this would need to be for my altitude at 11 pounds of pressure on a gauge, 10 pounds on a weight. And so as soon as that's rocking, I'll bring you back and show you what it looks like. All right, take a look. You see how I've just hit 11 pounds of pressure and my little rocker is rocking? Now I can set my time. My gauge works. I just don't want to have to sit here and keep looking at it. Now, this is a reminder for you. If for some reason you lose power or something happens and you go below on your gauge, or your rockers or your weight stops rocking or making whatever noise or jiggling, however your canner goes, if it happens, you need to bring it back up to pressure and then start your timing process all over again. That happened to me once when I had we had a power outage, and so it was out for about 15 minutes, but I had to start tuna all over again after doing about, oh my gosh, I want to say 100 jars. I had to do the very last canner load over again. So anyway, so there we go. Now I can turn my heat down a little bit on my burner because the pressure's built up, and I will set my timer. And so, oh, I want to show you, see the little plug? It will push up too. So you know that that's a good flexible plug because it will pop out of there if for some reason something bad happens and you get a plug in here or something and the pressure gets too big. There's your release. So now we're just going to wait an hour and 15 minutes. The hour and 15 minutes has passed. I've turned the stove off, and I thought about videotaping and I didn't, but you can see that the timer has, the gauge is slowly going down and the weight has stopped. Now, just because the weight has stopped or the gauge is going down does not mean the process is done, because the actual cool down time is part of the process. So this time, you don't want to wiggle this and let the steam out to kind of speed things up. Just let it sit there. It's going to come to either this is stopped and this will go down when there's no pressure, or this will go to 0 and this will go down when there's no pressure. And then you let it sit for another 5 minutes before you take the lid off, and then after you open it, you still let it sit for another 10 minutes, and that will prevent your jars from siphoning or losing liquid because the atmosphere changes in there. So we're just going to let it come back to 0, or let this go down so there's no pressure in it, and then we'll come back and I'll just open it and let it sit, and then I will remove the jars and you'll get to see what the finished products look like. There you have the barbecued pulled pork, and I want you to look real closely in there. See how that's still bubbling? That's still cooking in there. It smells so good too. So what I'll do with those is, you can see how it's got this settlement. You can take this out of the jar, and when you mix it up, it becomes like, you can see that it's separated the barbecue sauce, but it'll become all saucy and wonderful, and the pulled pork will just be shredded and fabulous on buns. And so there you have it. Brian canned barbecued pulled pork, his very first attempt in pressure canning, and I hope you guys enjoyed it. So as always, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.